Well, how about a little whiskey? It can be wheat or rye or malt, but it should be bourbon if you got it. Something smooth that warms the soul. Make it neater on the rocks, my man. You get too deep, I'll lend a hand. I never drank as little whiskey as I planned. Welcome back, everybody, to the Overgrowth Podcast. Don't worry, we won't get flagged on YouTube for copyright because I wrote that song.
One of your many talents. I won't call it a secret talent, but the people don't know about it
Not at
yet.
all.
Now they do.
Well, anybody who knows me in person in real life knows about it because I sing my songs to them all the
That's true.
time.
Honestly, that song is it's a bit of an earworm. Like I sing it all the time.
That is probably the least serious song I've ever written, and it might be some of my best work. And if anything that I've ever written was to turn into a hit, that would be it. That song is awesome.
Nice. Now, I was wondering, Maxwell, I know this is, you are the host and I am more of a recurring guest, but
Yes,
I was wondering if I could maybe take the wheel for a second.
please.
Okay, because we have, well, I say we. Overgrowth has some very exciting stuff going on.
That's true.
Um, this whiskey is in part celebration because, well, you can make this announcement.
Submissions are finished, which is
Yes.
awesome, and they went really well. We had 250 poetry submissions, so
Wow.
a bit more than that in poems themselves. We had about 100 fiction submissions, and we had about 60 photography submissions. A lot to go through, and I feel incredibly lucky because there was some really great stuff, and we were able to get exactly what we wanted out of this first issue, and more what we hoped for in reaching. And we are more than satisfied and humbled by the work that was sent to us. So thank you to everybody who submitted. Genuinely,
Yes.
it's been phenomenal. Like I've said this to people in emails, and I've had this get posted on our Instagram, but it has been a wonderful experience interacting with all of this. Just eye opening. Get to see so many perspectives. Get to read the work and view the work of so many artists who otherwise I never would have read their work. I get a great perspective on what's going on in this stuff as a whole, but just even story by story, poem by poem, especially the stuff that got sent up to me that I got to read, I can mostly speak for, was just, man, there's so much good stuff out there. And I wish there were 100 overgrowths so that all of the stuff that we couldn't take could get taken somewhere, because there's so much that's deserving of publication that we legitimately did not have room for. And so thank you for sending us your stuff. Keep sending us your stuff. I feel I'm not religious, but I feel blessed.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Like, what a tricky but a good problem to have like more quality stuff, like publication quality stuff than you actually have room for. I know that was probably some really hard decisions, but I personally can't wait to read the first issue.
Yes, and I think if you're highly anticipating it, you won't be disappointed by what's in there because it's really great stuff. And you're completely right, in the way that it's tricky. There were nights that I was up till 4 a.m. reading. Those are great reading hours because they're quiet and they're focused, and I feel like your brain is like more open. And most of that stuff you reread in the morning anyway. But
Yeah.
it was a really lovely experience. I really can't
Nice.
say that enough.
So what is the publication date? Is that released? Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it's released. Yeah, it's February 21st.
Nice.
And that is, I don't know, just less than 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, right around the
We're
corner.
busy getting everything formatted on the website. We found a format that we had played around with some, but now that we actually have the pieces, just making sure they all look and feel really nice. Everything, I've been in different publications before, and there are some that I'm when I pull my web page up, um, or look on a page and you see your work, it just feels really nice to feel like somebody put the care into framing and presenting that nicely, which we are doing. And I am heading that because I am the sort of aesthetic driving force.
And the website wizard.
And the
So,
website wizard. Yes, I'm the website person.
mhm.
So my vision is clear, and I am extremely picky, and I am not willing to relent an ounce of quality in any direction.
Yes,
And so, if you've been accepted by us, your work's in very good hands. And I'm excited for you to see the way that we're putting everything together, and I think you'll be really happy with it.
that's awesome. And speaking of quality and being picky, in the meantime, before the issue comes out, Overgrowth now has some very cool stickers.
Yes, that is true.
They're probably skewed because I'm pink, but there is Overgrowth in white and in black with the trademark colors. Not actually trademarked, but they look really cool. You're selling these on Instagram for 250 each.
Yes.
Um, so DM if interested. They're awesome. They feel like they're gonna hold up really well on a Nalgene.
Emily is doing this because she knows how painful it is for me to advertise anything.
I am, but these things deserve to be advertised. And there's more. There are also some really cool printed Polaroids with photos that Maxwell took that also have some overgrowth branding on them, some of like kind of the, I guess, taglines that you've crafted, but they're more poetic than most taglines are.
they
So
they come from what I believe in, and so
yeah,
does, I mean, the whole our whole aesthetic is, I don't want to go too far into just branding talk, but it's things
yeah.
that I think are really cool and meaningful. This is actually something, Emily, I'm not sure if you even know this, but our
Okay.
colors that you said aren't trademarked, they are, the hex codes of the colors are taken from a color dropper that is taken from that picture that you see when you pull up Overgrowth, our
Hmm.
website. I pulled them right off of there, and those are plants and leaves, little succulents and leaves growing on the short garden wall in my grandparents' backyard in Italy. So, it actually is
Yeah,
specific colors picked right from, like, my grandparents' garden.
that's
So they are
so
personal in a way.
I mean, the whole brand is literally personal to you.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about branding, what we're really talking about is like the taste of the project as a whole and kind of like the vibes. Again, here we are talking about vibes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then those printed Polaroids are $4 each also, and they are really cool. So
Yes, and
those
that
are,
money
yeah,
does not really go into my pocket. It goes into Overgrowth's pocket and goes toward getting kind of our, website paid for, and then past that, the actual print publication. We'd love to have as big of a launch of that as we can, and so that's what that money goes toward. And then
yeah,
those print publications. In case anybody hasn't seen this on our website, 50% of the profits of that go to the artists themselves. So we really pride ourselves in being a publication that pays the artists, even if it's a little bit, if it's a lot. It's a matter of principle for us. I'm an artist. I've submitted places. There are places that charge you to even submit just to get a rejection. I don't believe in that at all. Very few places pay. I understand a lot of places this is a labor of love. There's not a lot of money in it, but it just, on principle, if we're making money, that has to be shared with the artists. I couldn't do it if I didn't do that. So, that's kind of a driving factor behind us getting these products out there too. Is to just promote ourselves and get ourselves on good footing for those publications.
yeah. And if you're like me, where you enjoy the project, but you aren't necessarily a literary minded person, this is a great way to support. And also, we're working on building out the Patreon too, so you can subscribe over there.
Yes,
And I think
definitely.
that is the last plug.
That is the last plug. Yeah. Which is relieving for me because
Yeah.
um, I love the uh, I like building the marketing. I don't like actually selling the stuff.
Yeah.
It makes me uncomfortable. But thank you so much to everybody. We've sold like 31 of the stickers. We've sold like 5 of the Polaroids already. It's incredible. It's so nice, and it makes us feel very supported, not just as our singular project, but it's just really nice that there are people who are willing to and happy to contribute to a project like this, because I just believe in it as a cool and good thing that there should be recognition for, and I think symbolizes to me that other people are trusting that I see that and that I'm doing this for the right reasons and that they also want to see more of it. So it's a really good indicator for me. And it should be for people who have submitted as well that your stuff is coming to somewhere that really cares and values it. And so do so does our following. So very happy about that. Emily, let's
Mhm.
get into it. It's fiction week here.
Mhm.
I would love to after our last episode, which I gave a lot of more straightforward input on fiction writing, my kind of rules for myself and for other people, what I look for in pieces, what I hope not to see in pieces, some red flags. I would like to do a bit more of a light-hearted, fun episode this week.
That's fun.
Yeah. So we are going to look at some book reviews. And I
Yes.
know when you think book reviews, you probably think Goodreads. That is the premier book logging. You use a different one, though.
I
Yeah, what do
do.
you use?
I use Storygraph,
Storygraph.
and I'm a big fan, personally.
Yeah. I don't use anything. I think I probably have a Goodreads, but I like write them in my notes or just remember that I read
I
them.
liked I was really looking for something that felt like Letterbox for books,
Sure.
and so that's why I like Storygraph because it gives you like little like stats, like basically like you're wrapped for the year and stuff. So,
Yeah, that's fun.
um, yeah,
Nice. Well, no free ads.
yeah,
Storygraph, send us Storygraph. Let's jump down to the first. Let's jump into the first review here.
okay,
Emily, you have it in your Discord chat. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up so people can see it.
yes,
Um,
I'm
now,
very excited about this.
this is catered toward you.
Yeah,
Um, so this was I happen to know. I believe that I read the first one of these as a child, but this is a Emily Reed, a staple of your childhood literary
yes,
experience, shall I say?
yes. Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I was obsessed with these books. It launched me into like a full like owl phase that lasted years. Like got lots of owl gifts. I knew a lot about owls. I dissected like the little pellets.
I did that
Um,
too.
yeah, that was really cool. And so I'm very excited to read this review for the first Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
So a couple things that really put this review in perspective for me. First of all, I don't know if anybody else. We're in the South, so there's a lot of religion down here.
Hmm.
I was raised in a Southern Baptist church. Emily, you were raised in a Presbyterian church that seems to be have been much less
Killer.
toxic than
Yeah.
the environment that I was raised in. Um, but it was during those real like morality checking uh
Yeah.
eras. So before we would ever watch a movie, and this is like fine if you're doing this for your kids, my parents would pull up Plugged In, which was a focus on the family based website that basically told you like if there was any swearing in the movie, if there was sexual content. I get it. If you have kids,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's useful. Like it really is. Like if you don't want them to see certain things, it detailed it out. I actually have pulled it up more recently because it's helpful also if you're going to the theater with your parents. If you have a good relationship with your parents and you live in the same city as them, you're going to go to a theater and you don't want to watch a movie with like a sex scene in it or something like
So
that.
the purpose of this website has fully like inversed for you, where
Fully
now you're using
inversed.
it to decide if you're going to watch a movie with your parents.
Completely. You are absolutely right. And
Amazing.
yeah, so it's useful, but wouldn't it be nice if there was something like that for books? And wouldn't
Yeah.
it be nice if instead of that being a website, it was just a person who had taken it upon themselves to review just
This is
whatever they came across?
a real book warrior out there for
A
us.
real book warrior. So this is The Capture, a review of The Capture by Catherine Lasky. Catherine Lasky provides these cleanliness reports on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, she provides these cleanliness reports on. Well, I don't know where you would have heard of her before, so I can't
Well,
say
that's
that
the
I'm.
author.
Oh, sorry, I'm completely wrong. You're right. Louisa Knight does this.
Oh,
Catherine, she writes books about owls.
yeah.
Louisa Knight does these reports. I was reading the wrong name.
Got it.
Um,
She's our knight in
she is,
Shiny Armor.
yes, absolutely. And so I would like to go through here and kind of go section by section and break apart Guardians of Ga'Hoole, see how satanic or
Mm.
pure this book may be.
You know, I'm actually, before I even read it, I have a memory of the first book that I do
Okay.
think is fairly, well, probably to her, very satanic.
Okay.
Um,
Please. I don't remember
which
it
is
really at all.
so there's now I could be getting some of these details wrong, but in my mind, like there's kind of a thing where a lot of like young owls get like kidnapped and like in my mind they are almost in like a boot camp and they get like brainwashed. And they to get brainwashed, but I think they call it like moonwashed. They are forced to like walk in a big circle like under the moon and like chant or something.
Is this in the first book? In this book?
I'm pretty sure. Well,
Okay.
I guess it could not be in the first book, but that is like an element of the story that I remember just like as an image and like I'm like, "Oh, that would be satanic to someone."
Yeah, that does sound like something that would have gotten like flagged and passed around the Christian school that I was in. Like one time they flagged Christmas trees. They were like, "This is a pagan symbol," and somebody would like send an email to everybody in the school being like, "Don't put a Christmas tree
Oh,
up. It's not like so."
that's like real stuff.
It's real
Um,
stuff. It's important. I'm glad somebody did it. We didn't stop.
yeah.
My parents rolled their eyes pretty hard at that one. They rolled their eyes at a lot of stuff. They're chill.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, I'm gonna go ahead and go through these, if that's all right with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then get your take. So mild obscenities and substitutions. Now substitutions are, you know, like gosh would be a substitution for God,
Mhm.
which would be a swear, a swear.
Okay.
Um, so we got 44 incidents. Now that's pretty high for me for a children's book.
Yeah.
We've got by Glocks, great Glocks, good Glocks, bless my gizzard, for Glocks' sake, stupid, stupidly, rack drops, hell, the place,
Mhm.
what in Glocks' name, and shut up.
So, I guess my first question is, isn't a substitution a good thing? Or does that like still count?
That counts because you're
It
being
counts.
negative, and I think they're really like getting away with saying like by God, like great God, like
Mhm.
the spirit of the taking the Lord's name in vain is still present despite the changing of the letters.
I also just looking at the cover of the book, is this not like a tattoo that some guy would have on his forearm
Scoot
like
this
after
over.
he like does 2 years in the military?
Oh yeah, that's fire.
All right, continue.
That's so dope. He's like, I was part of the owl unit. Unit. I was in the owls.
They called me Glocks.
They'd say the owls are coming. We'd say who? Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so there's some name calling in here as well.
Okay.
13 incidents.
Mm.
Stupid, wet poopers, addle-brained idiots, fools, regular idiots, and ugly rat-faced.
I honestly feel like very different degrees here. Like I kind of feel like fools should be okay, but ugly rat faced sounds really personal.
So true. If somebody called me a fool, I wouldn't take that much offense to it.
Yeah. Now what if I called you a wet pooper? How would you feel?
I would feel confused. Addle-brained idiot. I think. Okay, now we talk about descriptors and their
Hmm.
necessity or not necessity. Is there a difference between calling somebody an idiot and an addle-brained idiot? That's like, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. All right,
Yeah, there is.
I thought there
And I
wasn't.
think I can explain it,
Okay,
which an idiot, you're just kind of stupid,
right.
right? Maybe you make bad decisions and you don't think things through.
Okay.
To me, being addle-brained implies an element of like temporary confusion.
Okay.
Like, you are too busy staring at that pretty owl, so you accidentally fly beak first into like a pole.
I get that it's like a certain type of idiot, but is addle-brained idiot swear different from
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, why that seems
idiot?
like just double counting
Yeah,
idiot.
I that's kind of what I'm
Hmm.
thinking. So religious and spiritual, for instance, owls sing a song of worship to the school they belong to. That sounds like something that this person would maybe like in regular life
Hmm.
for their children to do. An owl wonders if the other owls are demon spirits in a feathered guise. I wonder that often about the people around me while I'm grocery shopping or, yeah, at a coffee shop.
There, I guess this was maybe a small TikTok trend, but I didn't know so at the time. But Caroline, my friend, asked me, um, how many owls would it take for me to feel like something was off? Like if you like see some owls.
That's a great question.
And well, do you have a number in your head,
Three? No, not three. No, that's just
right?
several owls. Four, five,
Yeah, like I was like, I don't know, like
six.
feel like something was off. Probably but like six owls, five
Yeah,
or
I'm
six
thinking like
owls.
maybe eight owls. I'd be like, that's a lot of
That's a lot of
owls to be
owls.
right there. Yeah, you're
And
right.
when I tell you that I said like, maybe five or six owls, and I was met with complete shock that my answer wasn't like two owls.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like I guess I'm like a lot more owl friendly, but like apparently this is like kind of an omen for some people. It's like you see two owls and it's like something's going on.
That's funny. Well, the owls are not what they seem. We just started Twin Peaks, and if you haven't watched it yet, Emily, you'll get to know that term soon enough because you haven't seen it yet. The owls
Okay.
are not what they seem. If you've seen Twin Peaks, one owl is enough to know something's off. Um, so I want to. We'll kind of skip. There's a lot of stuff in here, but let's get the parent takeaway. By the
Okay.
way, there is. I just want to point out an older brother resents a younger brother.
That
Not
is
cool.
so
As an older brother
not
and a younger brother, I can say not cool.
you love to resent, but you hate being resented.
I yes.
The last two paragraphs of her review are like a self plug, but
Oh,
one of it is I have hundreds more of reviews
oh,
just like it.
Emily. Oh, I'm so glad that you caught that. Yeah, I couldn't really go through these, but she has. I just clicked on the page, so if you're watching this online, hundreds is completely accurate, and they're mostly children's books. Read books are 3,703, and a lot of them are like picture books, like to read to like your young child. So,
I would love,
an
I bet
excellent
you,
resource. I bet you she does. Although some of these, she was the only person to review them. So I think,
God.
yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and jump down to the next one. Do you have it there? This is the Jamie's review. So, this is basically the objective number one of this podcast. Well, I'm pulling the one stars because they're good. So, objective number one of this podcast is just have fun, interact with overgrowth people, chat about literature, hang out. Objective number two, promote the work of the god of literature, Herman Melville, and his masterwork, Moby Dick, which our generation,
Rise up.
Moby Dick Rise Up, our generation doesn't know that Moby Dick is the sickest book of all time. They think it's this dusty old tome by some dead white guy. It is a the funniest, dopest, and maybe gayest book written in that time period. Yeah,
And I loved it.
yeah. So if you haven't, yeah, sorry.
I was reading Moby Dick and I got to a part that literally I was giggling, I was kicking my feet, and I went straight to AO3 and looked up.
Did you look up Ishmael Queequeg? Is AO3 like a fanfic thing?
Yes, AO3 is the fanfic website, and I was not disappointed. There are over 90 fanfics for Moby Dick, and the only thing that stopped me from reading was that I had to check a box saying that the US government
Oh, that's right.
what I was doing.
Yeah,
But
let
it's
them
out there
know.
for my fellow queers. It's out there,
Donald Trump, you orange bastard. I'm reading the Moby Dick fan fiction.
and you can't stop
And
me.
you can't stop me. Um,
It's got it literally not even like 12 chapters in. You get the this is a little romantasy trope, Maxwell.
okay.
Um, when you get to the inn and there's only one room left, there's only one bed left at the
Oh,
inn.
of course.
Enemy.
That literally happens like within the almost immediately in the book. He gets
It's
stuck.
amazing.
Basically, he's like, "Well, you share a bed with this guy."
Yeah, and he's like, no.
No, he is like no. He's like if
He's no.
tries to sleep on that bench.
Yes, but
Um,
then they become uh very close friends.
they become best buddies. They're roommates.
Yeah, like
Um,
so
so
these
I'm
taste.
so I'm gonna read the first three paragraphs here because they're um. So Herman Melville's Moby Dick is supposed by many to be the greatest English language novel ever written, especially among those written in the romantic tradition. Meh. It's not that I don't get that there's a ton of complexity, subtlety, and depth to this book about a mad captain's quest for revenge. First of all, if you understand that there is a ton of complexity, subtlety, and depth, 2 stars at least, right? Like, come on. Like, what's one star for? For Revenge Against the Great White Whale, and on its surface, it's a pretty darn good adventure story. Okay, we're up to 3 stars now.
You're making some points.
And honestly, Melville's prose is flowing, elegant, and as beautiful as any writing can possibly be. It's magnificent, actually. So that's a 5 star review.
If you stop there, yeah.
Now, wait for this. It's just that any enjoyment or satisfaction I got out of the book was overshadowed by the tedious, largely pointless. Nothing in that book is pointless. Everything is fire. Stretches of encyclopedic descriptions about the whaling industry. Melville strikes me as one of those people who would corner you at a party and talk incessantly about whaling, whaling ships, whales, whale diet, whale etymology, whale zoology, whale blubber, whale delicacies, whale migration, whale oil, whale biology, whale ecology, whale meat, whale skinning, and every other possible topic about whales, so that you'd finally have to pretend to have to go to the bathroom just so you can get away from the crazy old man. Only he'd follow you into the bathroom and keep talking to you about whales while peering over the side of the stall and trying to make eye contact with you the whole time. Now, Emily,
Yeah.
is there anything better that could happen to you in your life than Herman Melville cornering you at a party and telling you everything he knows about whales?
And that's if Queequeg is with him.
Yeah.
And also, why do they think he's old? I don't think he's old. I thought he was like 27.
Oh, you're right. Like the character in the book, did they say that the character's
Like,
old?
he's this old, crazy man.
No, that's he sounds like a pretty like maybe like 30 years old,
And
unless I'm
also,
really missing
like,
something.
I think what they're really wrong about here is that I'm pretty sure he makes up like every single fact about
He makes
whales.
up he did do whaling, so he knows a lot, but he also made up a lot of stuff, which is especially about the anatomy.
Like in that way, that would be so funny if someone's like, you're at a party and someone's like, did you know that like giraffes actually have like three hearts all in their neck? I'd be like,
Yeah, that's
tell me
crazy.
more.
Yeah, there is a part in Moby Dick where he heavily implies that, yeah, nobody really knows what's going on inside of a whale. It's basically impossible to figure it out, which is not true, but uh, this is something for everybody to know. Herman Melville, he's fucking with you. Herman Melville's playing,
He's in.
and Herman Melville, he's playing. Oh, sorry, wrong side. He's playing for as this amount of pages. He's playing with you, and he's taking your heart and
Yeah.
carrying you. So that's enough. We had to get our Moby Dick love in there to balance out this Moby Dick hate that's out there in the world. So let's go ahead and move on if that's all right. Um, two, one of my favorite books. Since we're moving from one of my favorite books, I felt like we should give another. I should be hitting myself hard. I love these books, and so I should be listening to the critiques of these books. So this is a critique of the book Watchmen by Alan Moore, the great and brilliant Alan Moore.
You can
Um,
tell this is a person that like really is trying to be a Goodreads personality because he started with two gifts
oh,
of
Emily, wait until we scroll down. Don't scroll down yet, but wait until we scroll down. But to be fair to anybody who doesn't know, I am a fan. I'm a fan girl of the Watchmen uh, book, and I think it is a phenomenal masterwork, and it meant a lot to me, especially when I was younger. So let's go ahead and read what they have to say. First of all, we get some Grinching going on here. What's this? Unpopular opinion time? Most of my friends and most of Goodreads love this book. I did not. I read for pleasure. I don't care if reading makes me smart. I don't care if reading makes me pretty. I just want to escape into other worlds. If I went to this world, I would die from boredom. Now, for anyone who's read Watchmen, if you went to this world, you would die from violence, or starvation, or some horrible disease, or from
Are
a nuclear attack.
they all gonna be Grinch gifts?
You bet. Hate, 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 double hate. So they hated Watchmen. I actually like the darker books, so I thought this one would sweep me up into the fandom of it. But alas, it just made me sleep quite well last night. I didn't. First of all, this is a graphic novel, y'all. Like, this is pictures. It's mostly pictures. It does have long stretches of like writing, and it's got more text in it than a regular graphic novel probably has. And it's denser and more poetic because it is from the goat of the medium, Alan Moore. But it is full of colorful pictures, and it's, even though it's like subversive and all of that, it is superheroes in capes like doing adventurous things. Didn't even know there was a movie made from it until someone mentioned it while I was reading it. Now, Emily, this is not a connection. This is a connection I did not make until now. Same director as Guardians of Gahul.
Whoa.
Watchmen and Guardians of Gahul, both Zack Snyder. Um, Not as much of the goat, but has one or two good ones.
They both have an Owl City song in them.
I don't think he managed to get, actually, the score, or the soundtrack to Watchmen is pretty fire. Um,
Yeah.
my hubby would probably like the movie, so we may try that at some point. The movie's all right. It's pretty good. Um, I like it because I like the book, though, so who knows? Oh, and for the trolls that I'm sure I will attract with this review. If you utter so much as one syllable, I'll hunt you down and gut you like a fish. Because everyone has their own opinion. Go write yours on your own frigging review.
I cannot believe that they shoehorned six?
One,
Yeah,
two, three, four, five. Yeah.
two, three. Oh, you're right. All of the Grinch into their review. That is hilarious, especially because one of them doesn't make any sense at all.
Which one doesn't make any sense?
If I can use a little social interaction,
You're right. That,
watch it with her hubby.
honestly, they could probably have worked this one into the review a little bit more organically. Because
Yeah.
I think you could make the accusation that like people who are really into Watchmen could probably use a little bit more social interaction. I could when I got really into it.
I also she tagged this book. There's just like some tags at the top of her review, and she tagged it as boring as hell.
Uh, that is really a wild. Like you could maybe read Watchmen and be like, "Oh, this is it thinks it's serious, but it's childish because it's still superheroes," or it's the first thing to like subvert really the superhero genre. So like now if you read it and you've already read like The Boy or you've watched The Boys or something like that, you might be like, "Oh, like this is played out," but it's like it was the first, so you got to give it its props there. And I still think it was absolutely the best, kind of by miles, if I'm being honest. And so, uh, as a former nerd, I don't think I'm like that much of a as a former geek, I'm still a nerd. I think I used to be more of a geek. I can say that I've read this book within the past year and it still rips. So um but we have to give the Grinches, their time. But maybe her heart will grow three sizes and
Yeah,
she'll come around
she does that
eventually.
with Dr. Manhattan. Maybe it
He's
will.
the Cindy Lou Who of the Watchmen universe. That's not true. There is no saving grace in that universe. Um, all right, let's go on to the next one. So I thought, is there a graphic novel that somebody could not that would be really insane to write a 1-star review of? Yes, Emily, you're ahead of me. Art Spiegelman's Mouse. Now, for anyone who hasn't read Art Spiegelman's Mouse, similar to Watchmen, this is not just a fine piece of graphic literature. This is not just a fine piece of, comic or illustration or something like that. This is a phenomenal and very moving and very touching piece of literature and very useful because this is the book that opened. You grow up, you hear about the Holocaust, right? You know what happened, you know it was horrible, but to be able to put yourself in somebody's shoes who went through something like that, or to like you have sympathy but to really like feel that empathy for them, it's difficult. You'll probably never experience anything anywhere close to that, hopefully, in your lifetime, and it's so foreign of a concept to you. It's a very hard thing to wrap your head around, even if you feel bad and know that it happened. Art Spiegelman's Mouse did that for me and does that for a lot of people because it is a interview with his father that is illustrated at with the Nazis as cats and the mice are the Jews. And his father was hid for a long time, that was in Auschwitz, made it out alive, and this is his interview with his father and he's retelling his father's story. It is when I say like there are books that have touched me and movies that have touched me, like this one's up there. Like this one makes you open my brain and said, evil is unbelievably real, struggle is unbelievably real. There are levels to struggle that I can never comprehend, but this like opened my heart to the struggle that these people face, like that the victims of the Holocaust face. And that is a very common experience for a lot of readers. That's why you can go and pick up this. You could go today to Barnes and Noble and it might be on an end cap, like it is a very famous book for this reason, and very highly regarded. I would like to say before I get into this review, I am of Polish descent, so anything I say is fine. I have a real problem with this book, says Danuta. It's a powerful piece and tells the story of one family's experience of the Holocaust in grim and gripping detail. It's also an amazing exploration of the relationship between father and son. I'd love to give it 5 stars, and yet I couldn't give a decent rating to a book that depicted black people, Muslims, or gays as pigs. Before I go on, this book does not do that. They're using this as a hypothetical comparison.
Okay.
And yet, and I can't give a good rating to a book that depicts Poles as pigs, meaning Polish people. The book is not the history of the Polish people during the occupation, fair enough, but Spiegelman draws on stereotypes and shows a great deal of ignorance of events in Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine during the years of Nazi occupation. He seems to prefer the Nazis to the Poles. That is an insane thing to say. That is an insane thing to say. The Nazis are evil but elegant. The Poles are just brute animals. So just to give people I said that the Nazis are cats, the Jews are mice. The Poles are a pig, which is a kind of divorced animal that is not in the dog to cat to mouse chain. The Poles are not depicted as evil or stupid, and a lot of the Jewish people, like if they're like if you're able to pass as Polish or as non-Jewish by your appearance, like it depicts you as being a mouse with a mask of a pig over your face. The pig thing is not played for any sort of derogatory meaning. It's just meant to be quite obviously, when you read the book, an animal outside of this relationship of cat and mouse. It's almost like that he drew one out of a hat, and they're not drawn to be ugly. They're kind of cute. They're, you know, Emily, you've read Mouse, right? Oh, you haven't read Mouse? Man. So this person cannot give this book more than 1 star because they saw it as being racist. They saw Mouse as being an overall racial negative message.
That is insane,
Really
crazy,
crazy.
bad media literacy
It's,
to be like, you made the Polish people pigs.
yeah,
How could you? It's like, okay, first of all, they're all animals.
yes.
Second of all, that's not the point of this book. Like,
As they know, it's also insane to say that being like derogatory to Polish people is the same as being derogatory, like in a book, like to uh Muslims, black people, or gays.
oh, totally.
Yeah. As someone of Polish descent, guess what? Like, it's fine. I spent, do you know what I spent most of my day doing today?
What?
Trying to screw in that damn light bulb once again, and I had to call all of my siblings to be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay,
This person literally says powerful, yes. Racist, yes.
that's crazy. She also says, apparently, when Spiegelman was challenged about the way he depicts Poles in this book, he said, "Stop squealing. I haven't a source for this quote, and I hope it is wrong."
Okay.
Like, obviously, that colors her
Yeah. First of all, two things. If he said that, he's trolling and it's pretty funny. And it sounds like he might not have said it because he can't even find the source. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, crazy.
this is a crazy review
This
because
is
it
what we
just
call
misses the mark.
poor media literacy. This is it right here.
And like, I don't know. So, Maxwell, I do have something to point out to you, which is it's okay when Mouse does it, but it's not okay when Wicked does it.
Okay, so from my understanding, if Wicked is an allegory for the Holocaust, it makes all of the Jews animals and everybody else human, which feels very different of a comparison to me.
That's true.
I haven't seen Wicked, but I had it explained to me. You've seen the play though,
I have seen the
and
play,
it
but
does do that.
well, I was like in middle school.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
So
we won't comment too that that feels like a pretty different
that's fair.
scenario.
That's fair.
All right, let's move on. This is some good stuff here. I think you'll really like this next one.
When can I click it?
Yeah, go ahead. So
Oh,
we talked a little bit about Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover gave the book 50 Shades of Grey 5 stars. This is actually Colleen Hoover. So if you are if you know if you saw the new Blake Lively movie, you know, much drama surrounding that. It ends with us, as I did. Or have read any of this what is that genre? You referred to it as trauma porn on the last episode, I believe. Um
I believe it's classified just as a like a drama.
a drama. Yeah, so kind of these romantic dramas typically, right? She rated this 5 stars. And now Colleen Hoover is a top selling offer. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say this is different from It Ends With Us in that this is smut.
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, 50 Shades of Grey is smut. And
Yeah,
where's that? Like, that's fair, right? Like, it is what it
you're
is.
saying it's smut.
Exactly. But I would love to read this more literary acclaimed, and well, I don't know if acclaimed, but highly purchased authors review of this and just see what some of the highest selling literary minds of our time have to say, what their wit is like, how their brain works, get inside their mind. Um, I read this book back before E.L. James even wrote it. I don't brag about a lot of things, but my review skills are one of the few things I will brag about. E.L. James read my review on this book and she loved it so much she decided to go ahead and write the book. Here is a word for word copy of our email exchange from that day. E.L. James, hello, Colleen Hoover. I saw your book review on 50 Shades of Grey and I loved it so much I decided I would write the book. I'm already finished writing chapter 12. I just want to say thank you. Without your review, I would never have found the inspiration for this book. Colleen Hoover. You're so welcome. I'm great at this reviewing thing, right? E.L. James. You are. Take care. Colin Hoover. Laters, baby. E.L. James. That's brilliant. I might put that in my book if you don't mind. Colin Hoover. If you do, don't give me credit for it. I don't like attention. I get so much already. Someday when you finish this book, you'll know what it's like. And then she says, a few months following the above email exchange, 50 Shades of Grey was released, and E.L. James became a sensational author. If you're a reviewer, make sure that you pre-review books before they are written. Procrastination is for losers.
I have two things to say. The first is this email exchange. It sounds exactly like, okay, when I was a young child, like first grade, second grade, I had a diary that I would write in and I would have it write back to me.
This was your Harry Potter diary, right?
Yes, and this sounds exactly like an exchange I would have
Yeah.
written. I'm great at this reviewing thing, right? You are. Take care.
Yeah.
Later, baby. And the second thing is I'm very confused by the concept of reading and reviewing a book before it's written.
So, Emily, you're just not getting the joke. It's really it's just going too far above your head.
True. Okay, can
No,
you tell me?
you are not getting the joke, but it's because it doesn't make any sense and is like it's so bad.
Okay.
It's a little tongue in cheek, I guess. Like I wrote this review before the book was like I actually inspired 50 Shades of Grey. I get to take credit, and this review is what did it. But they're doing like a time travel, time loop, kind of absurdist like little thing. Like this review inspired the book.
Oh,
Like he like it's
okay.
it. So anyway, that when I was saying we'll see what the wit of some of the greatest selling
That
authors is like.
is a little embarrassing on the
Yeah.
heels of me roasting someone for having poor media literacy.
No, Emily, it's really almost it's not impenetrable, but it's not easy to figure out that she's doing a bit here.
Mhm.
And that yeah, it's
Now, do you know the lore of 50 Shades? How it came to be?
it's a Twilight fanfic, am I correct?
But do you know the deeper lore?
That Twilight was inspired by My Chemical Romance, and that My Chemical Romance was inspired by 9/11, because that's all true. So in a way,
You're wrong about
9/11.
one.
Okay, oh sorry, go on.
It's not My Chemical Romance.
Oh, who is
It's
it?
An Idiot by Green Day.
Oh, okay.
So they wrote that in response to like 9/11, the Iraq War. Then someone wrote Twilight was a fanfic based on it was a Green Day fanfic.
Oh, so this is a double
And
fanfic, 50
yes.
Shades.
So Twilight was a Green Day fanfic. 50 Shades originally was a Twilight fanfic, and
Right.
now here we are.
Now here we are. Anyway, Hoover, if you want to read more of her writing, if this really spoke to you and you want to read more of her writing, there's a lot of books out there for you.
I dare say you shouldn't. And her book Verity, I feel like, is probably inspired by her love of 50 Shades of Grey.
Let's go ahead. And now, this one, I really wanted to bring it back to you, Emily. I never want to waste your talents on here. And so I wanted to get a review of the DSM-5. Can you explain for anyone who might not know what the DSM-5 is, or the DSM in general?
Yeah, the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual of Mental Disorders. So, this is kind of like the guidebook for practitioners to use to diagnose clients. So, it describes basically all of the potential diagnoses that someone can have. Well, not all of them. Anyways, it describes potential diagnoses with a collection of symptoms that you have to meet like a certain number of those criteria to be diagnosed with.
Yes, so it's guidelines. It's kind of a guidelines across the board for people with mental illness so that medical professionals can say, okay, you exhibit A, B, C, and D. And if you exhibit four of these seven, that
Hmm.
qualifies you to be diagnosed with this certain syndrome or
Yeah.
disorder or what have you. So this person disagrees. So this is where I would love to. So we're going Joe Rogan here. Or we're not, they are. And so we are. I bestow upon the DSM a 1-star rating. I am a graduate student at in a counseling program. Emily, you were also once a graduate student in a counseling program. Did you bestow anything upon any widely accepted work?
Yeah, I bestowed a 1-star review to the IQ test.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's fair. Um, I took that and I passed.
Well, good for you.
Pretty
Your
good.
parents weren't
I
gifted,
passed.
and that's why I hate the IQ test.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because all my friends got to go eat the gifted pizza lunch, and I had to sit at the table by myself guarding all the backpacks.
Well, us gifted kids, we didn't even eat that pizza. We were too busy, like picking it apart with tweezers and studying it under magnifying glasses and stuff like that. Um, so to me, the DSM as a thing is the epitome of medical capitalism. If you were to research the creation and manipulation of the DSM over the course of its relatively short lifespan, you'd see the puppet strings reach into the clouds of both Big Pharma and the ultra powerful insurance consortium. This book directly affects the lives of basically everyone on the planet as a westernized methodology for mental health care sifts into all concerns of the globe in the 21st century. Psychology is a highly soft science riddled with subjectives, and the DSM is the cookbook for creating ailments that feed the insurance companies, medical professions, and multinational pharmaceutical industries, all the while hiding beneath a thinly veiled responsibility to the millions, if not billions, of people who could use some form of mental health care without being diagnosed, labeled, stigmatized, marginalized by the almighty and plastic powers that be.
Honestly, I agree with a lot of what they're
I was
saying.
thinking the same thing, actually.
Yeah, like I really don't think that they're wrong. Like if you look at the way the DSM has changed over time, like earlier iterations of the DSM, like, I mean, it's all based on what is considered typical or atypical in a given culture. And that changes over time. And so, like, gender dysphoria is in the DSM as something that people struggle with, but like being like trans or gay used to be like basically a diagnosis, like, of,
Yeah,
like, needed to be cured. It's like that's a way that it's changed over time with, like, what changes, like, in society. Um, but yeah, like, you have to use the DSM if you want to be able to bill insurance, because you have to give something like someone a diagnosis in order for them to be billed through their insurance, which is like a really tricky game to play because like they're right, like not everyone needs to be diagnosed, but they still have something they could use help with.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think as somebody who's been diagnosed with several things and doesn't put too much stake, and this isn't the purpose of this program here, but doesn't put too much stake in those terms. But I think what is maybe useful about the DSM and maybe gets like misappropriated in a way is that it helps to categorize and then kind of help people wrap their brain around so that they can find specific treatment plans for also.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So if I'm diagnosed with I have OCD, um, and then somebody can say, okay, this is the things that people with OCD struggle with, and here are the treatment plans for them, and they can let me know that I have OCD, and then I can say, okay, I have OCD. What does that mean, and what do I do for it? And it kind of helps you and your other practitioners, like if you go to anybody in the future, be able to kind of know what your collection of symptoms is.
Mhm.
So in that way, it's a very useful tool. I do think that I'm sure, and I think that, but I don't know that it's the epitome of medical capitalism. I think that it has
Yes.
maybe been co-opted into medical capitalism or is really used, like you said, to kind of provide harsh categories for things that are maybe way more fluid and changing and subtle. But I don't think everything was formed around the DSM, right?
No, absolutely. It's very much giving like, well, if you hate capitalism so much, why do you have an iPhone? And it's like, well, kind of because our world runs on smartphones now, and like I literally
Sure.
map it to places.
Yeah.
That's like very much like what the DSM is. And also, as someone who's read the DSM because I had to read it for school, um, it has typos in it.
There was another review of this book that was much shorter, and it was just like 1 star, and it said no plot, no characters, sucked.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have more I could say in the DSM, but I won't because this is not the point of the podcast.
Okay. Go nuts if you would like.
Well, what I will say is it is a very limited scope. Like it's extremely westernized, right?
Sure.
Because it's for use in the Western medical system.
Right.
But something that I thought was really interesting, like in school, was like we would have to read, like there are also parts of the DSM that refer to like culturally specific diagnoses that are like not as much in Western culture, but like you might see because not everyone that you see is from a Western culture.
Right.
And some of those are really interesting just because it's like not something that we necessarily like see often here. Like, you know, a lot of people have an idea of what a panic attack looks like, but there are like culturally specific panic attacks that have totally different presenting symptoms.
Interesting.
And even like some cultures, like there was one, and I want to say this was in like the kind of like Samoa region, but it was like,
Don't feed me any panic attack symptoms that I don't already know about, because I've had all of them that exist in Western culture, and my
okay,
body picks a new one every 2 years.
this isn't a panic attack, but if you're
Okay.
just gonna freak you out, you can take out your headphones for one
It's
second.
all right.
There's like nightmare deaths, like people that would like die from like a nightmare.
No. That shit would happen to me.
Yes, so I found this post about a fictional book that I think we can all relate to like when you get really into something, maybe making it a bit of your personality.
Sorry, can I clarify something really quick? When you say fictional book, do you mean like I haven't read this post. Is it a book that's made up? It's a fiction novel. Okay.
Yes, which I will reveal to you. Okay, so the title of this post is My 22-year-old female boyfriend, 31-year-old male, has become obsessed with a book and it's tearing us apart.
Okay.
So they talk a little bit, but they won't say what the book is. And in the comments, I had to dig because they were like, basically, don't even say the name of this book because it's triggering to me.
That's so funny. Oh, it's
Um,
a little smaller so people can read it.
yeah. So, throwaway account for obvious reasons. My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over a year. It's been by far the smoothest and best relationship I've ever had until 4 or 5 months ago when he became obsessed with this book. I don't even want to say the title because it triggers me, both because of what's happening and the content. But the premise of the book is basically a white supremacist gang that kills Mexican and indigenous people while listening to some monster who is the leader rant around a campfire.
What?
Do you have any guesses as to what this book is?
No. Let me read it again. Um, a white supremacist gang that kills Mexicans and indigenous people while listening to some monster who is their leader rant around a campfire. No, I don't.
Okay. My boyfriend found out about this book last fall and for some reason is convinced that this is, quote, the greatest work in the English language and a masterpiece. He endlessly quotes it even though hardly anyone has heard of it. The book has lots of long and creepy monologues and he will adapt them to be relevant to whatever is currently happening.
Wow.
I was so embarrassed around Christmas when he first met my parents and did this, like some inside joke that only he gets.
Okay, I have not to this degree, but I am guilty as a quote rememberer and quoter. I quote heavily in my daily life.
Mhm.
But I feel like I'm never looking to like shoehorn a specific thing in there. right? I'm not,
It sounds like shoehorning more than just like
yeah,
references or even inside jokes, which you never do an inside joke that's just for you.
that's very true. I do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year, we negotiated a system where when we go on long drives, we split access to the radio 50-50. He used to listen to music during this time, but now it's just the audiobook for this book over and over every single time. And to make matters worse, he will gesticulate wildly and quote his favorite parts, sometimes taking both his hands off the wheel. I think the last straw was finding out last week after he came to me asking if I can cover a portion of his rent, we split 50-50, that he had been buying
Oh
more.
my God.
Quote, I want to collect every edition.
He's buying so many copies of this book that he can't pay rent.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I could handle all of that. Maybe. But he's been forcing me to give my opinions on this book, which I hate. But he won't even accept my opinion. I tell him that literature is subjective, and he will unreasonably say, nope, it's again, until I say what he thinks the correct interpretation is.
That rough. It's crazy behavior. That's so weird. I- that's so crazy. Sorry, you can go ahead and finish. It's almost done.
How can I get him to shake this obsession off? I know this makes him look bad, but he's really the sweetest man. I want this to work, but I am so done with this book.
That is so insane. I can't believe that somebody who's not an insane person would behave like this about one thing.
Yeah,
Like,
this is a
I get really into stuff, right? Like, I get like super into stuff, like more than I think a lot of people probably do. And like, we'll just like, that'll be like my thing for a while, or like, I'll be really, but that maybe is more passion than obsession, maybe
it's
with me.
beyond passion
I'm saying
almost.
from me,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. For you, it's passion. For this guy, it is full.
yeah, like that is something else.
Um, the author of the post, the OP, also says in the comments, um, he the author has written several other books and he has read several of them nonstop for over a month, but never got as obsessed as he is with this one. He claims people teach college courses about this book, which I frankly doubt.
So did you figure out what the book is? It's
I
Blood
did.
Meridian?
It is by Cormac McCarthy. It is Blood Meridian.
Well, that's Cormac McCarthy, and that book is a lot of people's favorite books.
Mhm.
And and I haven't read Blood Meridian yet, but is supposedly an incredibly profound, beautifully written, masterful, but extremely dark uh and difficult piece of literature. Not difficult. I mean, I actually started reading it as my before bed book, and I was like, okay, this is like reading like this is about to be 400 pages of poetry, so I need to not do this before bed. But
You would never like Killers of the Flower Moon
right, great.
was an incredibly violent and difficult,
Oh, sure, sure.
but very beautiful and powerful. But you would never, I don't know, act it out in front of my family at Christmas.
Oh my gosh, no. And no, this is a weird thing to be that into. Anything is a weird thing to be this into, but it is so dark. Like I'm really into like he's 31. Like maybe I was like I used to be really really into like Batman and like Wolverine when I was in like high school when I was a geek, right? But you're allowed to be that into that sort of stuff. You're allowed to be a fangirl, right?
Yeah,
But like for me it's like oh my gosh, you grow out of that because so enough things should have meaning in your life by that point that nothing has that much.
really good point. And it's also probably why he's 31 and is dating a 22-year-old because
You know,
31-year-old women would be like, "Excuse me, we're not listening to an audiobook in the car together."
you're right, and this is not for general purposes like age gap shaming or whatever, but at the same time, it is like there is certainly a trend of like interesting, dark 30-year-old can only seem like that to girl who has not had that many boyfriends.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, So I did some digging to like read some other reviews of the book to understand, first of all, what the book is about.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally sure I
It
understand.
is from my understanding, it's a book that features a tremendous amount of evil in it, and that is
It,
for people who don't know Cormac McCarthy at all. He wrote The Road, and he also wrote No Country for Old Men, which is a great display of a purely evil person, and is a pretty pessimistic work as well. But he's a phenomenal author. And so, you kind of trust him with this material. And as I understand it, this book is largely a ripping open and putting your face into evil in a way that Scorsese's movies do sometimes too, but a little bit more graphic because you don't have to show it, you can explain it. So it's not as um, visceral a lot of the time when you're reading something as when you're looking at it. So, yeah.
which is like, you know, you can find this book so moving, but like this is the book you want to be listening to all the time.
Oh, absolutely. No. Yeah. That's such a good point, Emily.
Yeah, like this guy is listening to it, quoting it at family dinners, quoting it in the car as he listens to the audiobook.
Right.
And so I read some reviews and there was a wide range, 5 stars and 1 stars on Storygraph, not Goodreads. And they all have a consensus that it is incredibly violent and that the prose is very prosy.
Yeah.
Some people found that a good thing, some a bad. But my favorite review was incredibly simple and to the point. 3 stars. Well written? Sure. Enjoyable? No.
Yeah, that's fair. And you know what? Like, speaking of something like Killers of the Flower Moon, if this unlocks something in your brain, Blood Meridian does, and like exposes you to something new and profound. And I think it does that for a lot of people. Like, to me, that's very good literature, especially if it's done artfully and like it sounds like he does it very maybe heavy handed with the violence and everything, but like eloquent at least, And so um I just think that but like I love Killers of the Flower Moon, and I love a lot of the dark Scorsese movies where he explores evil because that opens your mind to that sort of thing and allows you to process those things in the world and acknowledge them and consider morality in general. And I think that people who write like that typically come from a place of wanting to evoke that from their reader. There are some people who just want it for gasps and stuff, and authors and creators that literary don't typically, in my experience, do that. So, but intent doesn't really matter. I guess effect is what matters. But as much as I love all those Scorsese movies, if I freaking was dressing like Travis Bickle and showing up with a
100%.
mohawk to your family Christmas and like being like, "You talking to me?" That'd be so crazy.
Like, I don't know, is this like a thing? Like, are there like McCarthy heads? Like,
Yeah.
is this like she found one of many, or is this like an
No,
essentially
I
in
don't think
there?
they're as big as Infinite Jest, like
Truly.
because Infinite Jest there, but like that's also a fantastic, like a phenomenal like work of literature that has been kind of co-opted by sort of a toxic group, right?
Like
And
male
like,
manipulator
sure, yeah.
myths and infinite jest.
Yes, yeah, and it's a shame because honestly, a lot of Smith's music rocks, and Infinite Jest is a really great book. And like, it's almost like Star Wars in a way. It's like literary Star Wars. Like, you cannot judge the product by its fan base, you know?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see
like,
what you're saying.
them
Okay.
Empire Strikes Back, that movie's is as good as everybody who swears it's the best movie ever thinks it is. Like, it's a very, very, very good movie. But like, my goodness, chill. I do think
Like,
for the McCarthy heads though, like it's like if you're really into Cormac McCarthy, like it's a way higher like entry barrier than a lot of things because you have to read Cormac McCarthy to do it, which is not like an easy read. Like even Infinite Jest, which is incredibly long, is like pretty funny and pretty like crazy and drags you down the page. That's a term I use a lot. Cormac McCarthy is like you're parsing sentence by sentence a lot of the time to find the meaning. So
I imagine that living in this relationship would be like if every night you were like, let's watch Bone Tomahawk.
that would be my nightmare. That is hell. Hell is where they make me watch Bone Tomahawk on repeat. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, well, thank you, Emily. This is some great stuff here. This, I believe, not to, shout out a bigger podcast, but I do believe that this is Will Menaker's favorite book.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. And, little, connection here. Will Menaker was, when he worked in publishing, the publisher for Alan Moore's Jerusalem for the American editions. So, yeah, there's a great interview with the two of them. Um, but yeah, just connecting this back to Watchmen. Also very pessimistic, and yeah.
I listened to that interview or an interview between them, and it tripped me out because they were talking about Alan Moore's concept of like time and death, and it
He's
was
so dope. He says he's a wizard and he is practicing magic, and he hasn't left England since like 1987, like his hometown of Northampton. And then he also sounds like an orc from Lord of the Rings.
wow.
He's the goat. Alan Moore, Herman Melville. I'm sure we'll be referencing more of the Overgrowth faves in the future. Um, but yeah, that's great. Maybe not Cormac McCarthy if he evokes this sort of psychotic reaction in his readers. All right, well, lovely stuff, Emily. Thank you for joining us again. I know you're going to be a pretty much a staple over here,
Oh,
unless otherwise occupied. So, um, yeah, great chatting. And everybody have a good time until Wednesday when we'll see you
yeah.
again.
See y'all next time.